maybe America will actually transition to a single party system. Okay, so this rising Stalinism in America, which again, it's absolutely necessary. It's gonna happen. Like there's no way out of it. Okay, the objective reasons for it is dwindling American domination, and you cannot stop it. Okay. Greetings, this is Eugene the Philosopher, the greatest living philosopher after the unfortunate passing of Quentin Robert de Nameland, who has been the greatest living philosopher before me. Now in this video I want to discuss a coming possibility of the reforms of the Democratic Party in the United States, or maybe the whole party system of the United States in general, as a whole, alright? But in order to approach this point, we need to consider a few other points first. Let's make a slight update about the European-American war that is still ongoing, alright? Now, obviously, the main front of this war is the Ukrainian front. And as you may remember from my video, I don't even remember, I changed the title to something like, why did Putin attack Ukraine or something? Obviously, I'm going to link it in the description. It was released in March of 2022, so that would be almost exactly 3 years ago. It was March 20th or something, maybe. But anyway, in this video, I claim that the main goal of the war is the creation of a European army, which is sort of a sub-goal of a larger goal of the deoccupation of Europe, basically. Basically kicking the Americans out of Europe. And now we are very close to this goal. In fact, Trump is already saying that maybe we should leave NATO, which would kind of leave Europe alone in Europe, right? Trump also says maybe we pull out of Europe with our forces completely, which would be perfect for Europe. And in fact, actually, again, any Republican rule is always good for European integration, and this rule is so good so far, it's actually kind of crazy, you know? So things are evolving at the best scenario for the European Union right now, at the best possible scenario. Basically, the European integration is gonna go exponentially faster from here unless something unexpected happens. But so far, nothing unexpected happened. Only the good unexpected things happened, rather. You may formulate it like that, okay? So again, since the main goal of the so-called special military operation in Ukraine was the creation of the European army, right now you can already see that people are openly discussing this possibility at the highest level. Not only Zelensky talks about it, Macron talks about it, Scholz talks about it, everybody talks about it, that we need a European army. And of course, if you look at the European armed forces per se, they're not that big, so maybe actually in the end, this is sort of like a hypothesis of mine, which is not that far-fetched actually, maybe the Ukrainians would become the core of the European army, because currently Ukraine, maybe I'll show you the picture right now on the screen. The picture is from Wikipedia, obviously, because I don't care as much as to look at the sources. But anyway, it's a pretty good table, alright? You can see that Ukrainians have the biggest military in Europe. I mean, if you exclude Russia, okay? Which is actually bigger than the four largest militaries in EU proper, which would be combined. I mean, which would be France, Germany, Italy, and Poland, right? So Ukrainian army is bigger than the four biggest European armies. So it would make sense to make Ukrainian army the European army, okay? Or at least the main bulk thereof, okay? Because not only is it the biggest army, it also has the biggest combat experience, the actual combat experience of actual modern war. It also has a pretty good tech. I mean, it has a lot of experience working with mines, working with drones, working with all kinds of stuff, all right? Like radio electronic warfare and things like that. So yeah, it would make sense. Now, of course, eventually Russia will also join the European Union, maybe by parts, you know, so that would be only additional troops for the European army, etc., etc. But that's a longer perspective, maybe 10 years. I mean, I would argue, actually, this is again, another prediction, that in the span of the next 4 years, basically current Trump's term, Russia would start integrating into the European Union in this way or another, okay? Again, maybe by parts. Maybe Belarus would be the first, even though we're not part of Russia technically. I mean, by all factual stuff, we are, okay? So anyway, Speaking of my predictions, okay, there was one prediction which failed, which I've made, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I said that, or maybe 4 actually, that Alexei Navalny, will become the next president of Russia. And now that he's dead, obviously my prediction didn't pay off. So as much as I pat myself on the back, I have to acknowledge, like a little bit of humility wouldn't hurt, okay? Actually, I've made a list of predictions not that far away, not that long ago, which I'm gonna link as well in the description. It was in the community posts, okay? And so far, like I've predicted that Trump will win, that the Ukrainian war will end, and that the European army would be created, that the Taiwan will be given to China, and that the worldwide economic crisis will start from this, because the AI bubble will burst because of Taiwan takeover. But let's see. So far we're rolling relatively good. But then again, a bit of humility with Navalny failed prediction. So, yeah, so Republican rule, I'm trying to steer closer to the topic, okay? The Republican rule is the best scenario possible for the European Union. It's the best scenario possible for the creation of European army and the ending of the Ukrainian war, okay? So, yeah. In my video, again, who will win the 2024 elections, I predicted, again, patting myself on the back, that the Republicans will win if the current party system holds, which it did, honestly, okay? So, which is what actually happened in the end. The Republicans did win. Because, like, why? Well, because Republicans are the party of defense, alright? It's the party of damage control. Again, in the current party system, alright? Since we are talking about the American party system. So, and now American domination is dwindling in the world. So therefore, as expected, a lot of damage control is needed. So therefore, Republicans are in power. And, for example, like what is the current government doing? They're cutting the spending, right? They're saying, okay, well, let's stop funding propaganda like USAID or USAID or whatever, however you pronounce it, alright? Which is again, this worldwide net of influence, right? And propaganda. So what they're saying is, oh, we just have to cut the spending, whichever way possible, right? The DOGE, this DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, right? That's basically the tool of cutting the American influence on the world, because, well, the thought process is that since we, and by we I will mean Americans, right? Even though I'm not an American, I'm just using it for simplicity. So we can't use propaganda anymore. So we have to cut the funding to it, right? Because we now concede that we don't have enough strength, okay? So Americans are claiming that, okay, that's enough. It's over. We don't have enough strength to maintain the world domination, the world hegemony. Therefore, we have to cut our own tentacles, which are everywhere. Like USAID was one of the branches of these tentacles, and we have to cut it all off, okay? We don't have the strength anymore. We're not a global power anymore. We're not a world hegemon anymore, or at least we don't have enough strength to maintain it at the levels that were present, let's say, in the 1990s, at the unipolar moment, etc., etc. I've already discussed all of these things, or maybe at least a lot of these things in other videos of mine, which I'm gonna link in the description. So that's why, for example, Trump kind of restarts these talks about how America needs Greenland and Mexico and Canada, basically all of these regional places, you know, because why? Well, because basically Trump is saying in this way that we are, since now we are only an NA power. We're only North American power. We're only a regional power now, okay? We can make claims on Mexico, on Canada, and on Greenland. We don't make claims on the world anymore, right? That's kind of the thought process, and this is how you should read it. And this is how any reasonable person in the world reads it. This is how people in Europe perceive it, believe it or not. Like, people think that, okay, Trump actually kind of bashes everyone, like Europe loses. No, the America is losing. Trump is a defensive president. He's like, again, damage control type of president, okay? Like, we've overextended. We need to build walls. We need to lock ourselves in the North America. Otherwise, we will fail completely, right? That's the thought process. So, we are only a regional power now. That's what the Americans are saying, in the voice of Trump, basically, okay? So Americans cannot afford the world domination anymore. That's what Trump's actions show until now, at the very least. Now let's talk about the coming reforms or possible reforms of the party system. Okay, so obviously the Democratic Party is kind of nowhere right now, right? Like everything is ruled by Republicans, and it seems like the majority of Americans are on the same page. Okay, well, at least like 50+%. Maybe not the absolute majority, but the majority nonetheless. So Democratic Party needs to kind of reinvent itself in a way. And in order to describe this process, I want to bring up an analogy which would probably not help a whole lot, but I'll try to explain it, okay? So what happens to USA can be seen on the example of what happened to USSR. First, you see, like when the USSR was established, or even like a couple of years before it was established. It was established in 1922 and at the very end of the year, on December 30th or something. So the first couple of years after the revolution of 1917 and before the establishment of the USSR, there were these dreams of world socialistic revolution, essentially, okay? So here's where the analogy kicks in. So previously, the Democratic Party was this kind of early Bolsheviks right after 1917, where they still hoped to install the worldwide, revolution, which is again fitting because the Democratic Party was kind of a socialistic party in the last, I don't know how long, maybe 70 years or something like that, right? Which again aligns them with Bolsheviks a lot. So, and the same was observed in the USSR. Like we want the world socialistic revolution, and the Democratic Party wants the world, I don't know, alphabetic rights activism, the world feminism, the world whateverism, all of this type of stuff. And the same was in the Soviet Union, rather even before the Soviet Union and the very first years of the Soviet Union, this liberté, fraternité, égalité kind of stuff. So yeah. But then, after the world revolution has failed, somewhere in the middle of 1922, rather 1920s in the first place, the policy has changed in the Soviet Union, okay? After the death of Lenin, which was 1924, a certain shift of policy has begun. And it completely established itself in the early 1930s, okay? So it was called socialism in one country. And it was led by, you know who, Mr. Joseph Stalin, okay? So the idea was, okay, we failed with the world revolution. Now we shift gears to another policy, which would be, we would lock ourselves in and establish socialism, not everywhere all at once, but here in the USSR, all right? And this is kind of the shift. Hopefully you can see the analogy. So first, America tried to establish its rule, including like the Democratic Party, which was one hand of America, if you wish, tried to establish its own rule all over the world. And now that America doesn't have power for this anymore, now the Democratic Party would probably shift gears to maybe establishing socialism in one country, in the USA, or maybe by one country, they will mean NA, starting from Mexico in the south and ending with Greenland in the north. I don't know. And I actually don't even know whether that would be Democrats or maybe that would be Republicans. Maybe the parties would kind of shift again. Again, maybe some sort of global, and by global I don't mean like global, I mean global in American world, reform of the party system is underway and it will happen in the next maybe 4 or 8 years. I don't know, actually. So I don't know whether it's going to be a Republican or Democratic party, but I do know that a Stalinist party will appear, okay? So by the analogy with the USSR, there will be a party which will claim, let's build socialism in a single country, which would be the United States of North America, maybe, or whatever, or just America as it is right now, so, or maybe actually Mexico and Canada would be integrated into this. regardless, the point still stands. As American influence shrinks, it is inevitable that the American party system would reform itself, because again, you can't work on the previous assumptions that the American hegemony is working, because it's not working anymore, all right? So you need to somehow shift. Like if beforehand, the Republican Party was the party of defense, who was basically a brake on this process of domination, and the Democratic Party was an accelerator of the American world domination. Now maybe they will switch places, I don't know. But what I do know, again, is one of these parties will become Stalinist. And with all the probably, I don't know how far this analogy can be brought, but if it can be brought far enough, it will be, you know, the personality cult. And you may say, well, it's a Trump's personality cult. No, it's not even close. It's not even close to personality cult of Stalin. Something much worse is like, if the analogy holds, something much worse will happen in the near future. Again, maybe 10, maybe 20 years from now, maybe even 5. Like the next term, we'll see what happens, the next election. But I think, if it's gonna be the Democratic Party, the Stalinist Party, I mean, they will do something like big in the next, like, 3 years, alright? So, right before the next election, something big will happen, which will sort of make an external, what's the word? Justification, alright? So they need some external justification for their inner transformation of the party, okay? So maybe it's not gonna be, again, the alphabetic activism or feminism anymore, or you know, like racist kind of stuff, or whatever they're arguing for. I don't even know, actually. And plus socialistic social policy, basically increase government spending, increase inflation, blah, blah, blah. Taxation, suppress the markets, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it's gonna be actual Stalinism, you know. We actually, like, increase the government to maximum, and like control everything, period. Something like this. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, the current technological state allows Stalinism to be like orders of magnitude stronger than it was in the 1930s in the Soviet Russia, for example, or the Soviet Union in general, okay? So this is my key idea. This is my key analogy, like USSR in early 1920s, dreaming of the world revolution. That would be America in 1990s and 2000s, and to a degree 2010s, and the Soviet Union in 1930s, evolving slowly or devolving, whatever you prefer, into Stalinism, which is America right now. But it's gonna be, like, it has to be bureaucratically shaped. Like some sort of bureaucratic change should happen. Like, for example, the USSR was created, like the Stalin surpassed Lenin, so that was kind of, you know, the bureaucratic, the formal change which allowed this to happen in the USSR. We'll see what kind of formal change would be in the United States. Like, again, my opinion is that it's gonna be some big shift in the Democratic Party. Again, if you look at the at the USSR, they've had one party. I mean, technically there were many, but practically there was only one, alright? So maybe America will actually transition to a single party system, okay? So this, rising Stalinism in America, which again, it's absolutely necessary. It's gonna happen. Like, there's no way out of it, okay? The objective reasons for it is dwindling American domination, and you cannot stop it, okay? Like, it's just the way of life. It's just how things work, okay? Things rise and things fall. America is falling right now, and you cannot stop it. You can maybe, like, you can definitely accelerate it, okay? Like, Trump is arguably actually accelerating it right now by pulling out from the world, right? By reducing government spending, blah, 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 reducing propaganda and all this kind of things. Anyway, hopefully I've made my point. I've actually, there was some point I was getting to, but I've already forgotten. But there you go. There you go. Big reform of Democratic Party, or maybe the whole party system of the United States, is probably going to happen pretty soon. That is, this cycle, like right before the next elections, or maybe the next cycle. But I think, yeah. Like roughly 8 years horizon. Could be 12, maybe. could be 12, but that's pretty hard to believe considering how fast things are going right now, okay? That would be my prediction. Thank you for watching. The eons are closing. If you wish to support me, please consider joining my Patreon. That is patreon.com/philosopher. See the link in the description. Or if you have a scientific theory of your own and you'd like my help in developing it, please join my alternative science coaching program, also available through Patreon.